3.5 years ago, I invested my first €500 in agricultural loans on LANDE, and today I want to draw a conclusion. Currently, I have €4,600 invested here after having realized some profits, and in this video, I want to talk about the comeback of LANDE and why I now only invest in loans that are secured by land. So, who is LANDE worthwhile for? What do investors need to know? We'll clarify that today on Northern Finance. My name is Alex Bleck.
Hi, my name is Alex from Northern Finance. This video was translated with the help of AI so that we can reach more people in their own language. A native speaker has reviewed the translation. Still, some sentences might sound a little unusual. Thanks for being here and enjoy the video now.
Transparency is important to me. I was quite critical of LANDE for quite some time, but that's no longer the case today. In this video, I'll show you exactly which numbers and facts ultimately convinced me. But first, let's start from the beginning. Since 2019, LANDE has offered private investors like you and me the opportunity to invest in agricultural loans from Latvia, Lithuania, Poland, and Romania while earning returns of around 9% to 12% per year. These are always loans to farmers that are secured with collateral, since there is no buyback guarantee or anything similar here. Depending on the loan, this collateral can either be land owned by the farmer, meaning a registration of a land charge. But machinery can also serve as collateral, yes, for example, tractors, as well as crops and livestock. Additionally, farmers can also use EU subsidy payments as collateral here, as well as even government guarantees. For all types of loans, the loan-to-value ratio and the recovery rate are important in case the loan is delayed or has defaulted. I have made a detailed video about this, which I have linked for you in the info card and also below in the video description. In short, loans backed by land are one of the best options here. Of course, there are also other types of loans on the platform that can perform well, but land-backed loans are particularly attractive to me because they tend to be repaid more reliably. And if a borrower defaults, LANDE can usually take over this type of collateral more easily than other assets such as machinery. Because at the end of the day, you can't just move a piece of land somewhere else, unlike a machine. I'll come back to this topic later in the video and show you a bit more in detail. LANDE is also licensed as a European crowdfunding service provider. This means that many processes on the platform are standardized and regulated, with the aim of ensuring greater transparency and a higher level of investor protection. You can also use the secondary market to sell your loans before maturity or buy investments from other investors. That is very practical and gives you extra flexibility. The minimum investment on the primary market is €50 per loan. On the secondary market, you can technically start from just €2, although in practice, the first realistic offers usually start at around €16. For you as an investor, LANDE is completely free to use. The platform currently has more than 10,000 private investors, with an average investment of around €5,200. The average loan-to-value ratio is only 43%, meaning the loans are backed by collateral worth significantly more than the loan amount. The interest rates for investors average 11.2%, and the average term is 19 months. That's how long your money is typically tied up here on average. And if you want to invest here, use the link below in the video description to secure yourself an extra bonus that you won't get with the regular sign up. But enough with the theory, let's move on to the practical part and see how I approached it. Here you can see my own investor account where I currently have €4,692 invested. A few euros are still available as cash. Most of the amount is invested in active projects, and around €200 has already been reserved for new projects that I have funded on the platform. In total, I have already invested in more than 200 loans here from farmers. Currently, only 65 of them are still active. Of these, 51 are on schedule, a few more are delayed, and 9 have defaulted. 128 loans have already been repaid, so the defaults in my portfolio are somewhat high. We'll come back to this topic in a moment and discuss how the situation has significantly improved here. In addition, I have already made a profit of €1,481 here, which mainly comes from interest. A small part of this is a bonus that is sometimes given for new investments, as you can currently see on the right here. Down here, you can see my most recent investments, and as you can clearly see, every single euro has been invested in loans that are backed by real land as collateral. I no longer finance any other types of loans. All of these loans were added to my portfolio this month, so they already reflect my updated strategy. Now let's take a look at my portfolio and use the most recent loan I invested in as an example. Here we have a loan with 12% interest, a term of 3 years, and a total loan amount of €33,000. The loan is backed by land as collateral. The loan-to-value ratio is 47%. In simple terms, that means that for every €100 of land value, €47 in credit was issued. In my opinion, that's a good ratio, as it should allow the pledged land to be sold at a profit even in the event of a default. However, of course, this is not guaranteed. As an investor, you carry the risk yourself here, so let's take a closer look at the collateral and in more detail. And here we also have several valuation reports, which I really like, from one of the largest appraisers in the Baltics. And here we can also see the payment schedule again, where you can follow exactly what you are investing in and when you are supposed to receive your money. Here, payments are not made monthly, but only once a year in a total of 3 installments. That is quite unusual, but it does happen on the platform. In total, 18 hectares have been pledged as collateral, and as with every loan, you can check this yourself further down in the valuation reports if you want to, which I think is very good. In this case, several smaller plots of land were pledged together as one large collateral package, and you can also find the most important information for you as an investor summarized again in this PDF, which LANDE, as a licensed platform, has to provide for every loan. And that's all well and good, but how do I actually invest here myself? To illustrate this, I want to show you my portfolio performance software, which visualizes everything very clearly. Right here on the screen, we have my personal investor account at LANDE clearly displayed with all of my current active investments, and we have carefully recorded every bit of the interest I earn each month since the beginning of the year 2022. You can also clearly see here whenever I reallocated something and so on and so forth. Basically, you can see everything you need here. And here we have data from the very beginning, since October 2022, when I started investing with LANDE. Visually, it looks like this. I made my first deposits here. At the turn of the year 2023, I had invested just under 1,000 euros. A year later, it was 3,500 euros, and another year later, 7,200 euros. And here you can clearly see the interest payments that I entered month by month, shown in these steps. You can also see quite well that I took some profits and reallocated part of the capital. And this is where we are today. From here, I expect it to move upward again now that I have changed my strategy and feel more comfortable with the investment. Next, let's take a look at my return. Here, LANDE shows 8.9% per year since I first started investing on the platform. Here you can clearly see how I always recorded the interest, and last year at LANDE we even had a return of 10.1%. And in the current year we have 10.5% on my investment. I'm quite satisfied with that. And to achieve this return, I use the Auto Invest feature, which you can find up here in the menu bar. There, you can set up a simple auto invest that basically invests in everything available on the platform, really everything you can invest in, but personally, I would not recommend using it that way. And then there's the Advanced Auto Invest, which allows you to invest from 100 euros per loan, which is much more interesting since you can customize a lot here, even though you have to invest at least 100 instead of 50 euros per loan. Here, you give the strategy a name. Set how much you want to invest per loan and specify the minimum interest rate you want. After that, you determine the loan term and the maximum loan-to-value ratio allowed. For now, I'll just leave everything as it is. The most important thing to consider is the specific type of collateral involved, and I now exclusively invest in loans that are fully secured by land. As clearly shown in the historical data in the video I've linked here for you, loans secured by land perform among the very best and have overall the fewest loan defaults in the market. And that's exactly why I really like investing in these specific loans here. And as I said before, land simply can't run away or be driven off like a piece of machinery or something similar. It just stays right there and can't go anywhere at all. And this land charge remains. After that, you can set the repayment terms and the countries you want to invest in, and then confirm everything at the end. My strategy looks like this. As I said, I only invest in these loans here that are secured by land, and I invest for up to 3 years. I accept all repayment types and have kept my minimum investment at 100 euros. It doesn't need to be more than that, and I only invest in Latvia, Lithuania, and Poland. The Romanian market didn't go so well for me, so for now I'm leaving it out. Maybe I'll change that, but that's how it is at the moment. This strategy is currently running, and below you can see my old strategy where I simply invested in everything. And as shown in this video here, I recently received an exclusive and comprehensive analysis from LANDE itself regarding their loan defaults across different loan types and countries over the years. It became increasingly clear that in all countries across the globe, the loans secured by land have by far the lowest default rates. Here in Lithuania, historically speaking, only 1.1% of the loans secured by land have ever defaulted. Whereas for loans secured by seasonal crops or various financial guarantees, the default rate could be much, much higher than that. It's quite similar in the main market of Latvia, where only 1.5% of the loans secured by land have defaulted since the founding of LANDE. That's significantly less than the 5% loan default rate for machinery or the 8% for financial guarantees up here. It's definitely worth watching the whole video. As I mentioned, I've also linked it below in the video description, and since the interest rates here are similar, whether the loans are secured by machinery or land, I personally prefer to invest in those with a lower default rate. There are certainly good ways to approach this differently, but for now, I only want to do it this way for myself. That's why I've permanently paused my old strategy and changed how I invest here. And if you want to invest this way too, then use the link below in the video description, as I said, to secure yourself an extra bonus that you won't get with the regular sign up. I also had loan defaults in my portfolio. Yes, we don't want to hide that. But when I look at this data, I have to honestly say that the situation has also changed and significantly improved at LANDE, and that's why I'm investing now as well. But you shouldn't forget about these loan defaults. Of course, you can also manually manage your investments in the primary market, and yes, browse through all available options here and use filters to locate the specific details you are looking for. And for example, you can take a look at this loan here, which is backed by land as collateral. And if you see a green euro symbol like here, then you are already invested in this loan, just like I am in this example. But I think the goal for most investors is passive income rather than always actively searching for loans. That's why, in my opinion, auto invest is one of the most important features for investing here. And before we get to the conclusion, we still need to take a look at the secondary market in addition to the primary market. Yes, when you buy and sell loans. Here you can buy loans from other investors yourself or also sell your own loans, which is very attractive since it can be done without fees. However, this is only possible if the loans have not defaulted. That's an important distinction. If they are delayed, you can still do it, but in the case of a default, it's no longer possible. According to the platform rules of LANDE, this is simply not allowed anymore. Here you can also filter by criteria to find loans. For example, here we are searching for short-term loans, and the first two loans are delayed, while the third one is on schedule. However, the investor here is very heavily invested with 6,600 euros in a single loan. And when we click on it, we don't have to buy the full amount from that investor. We can also choose a partial amount starting from 50 euros and adjust it individually down to the exact euro. As mentioned, there are no fees here, just like on the rest of the platform, which is very attractive and makes things simple for investors. So with that, let's move on to the final chapter, the conclusion. My conclusion about LANDE after 3 years is ultimately positive, provided of course that you follow the right strategy. With a current return of 10.5% in my portfolio, the platform demonstrates the potential that agricultural loans hold. You get real diversification away from the stock market, you support the economy and food supply within Europe itself, which is to begin with a really good thing, and on top of that, you can also make good money with it. Yes, I have had some loan defaults in the past and I complained about them, but I learned from that. Anyone who just invests in everything is taking unnecessary risks that you don't have to take, and that's why I've now adjusted this based on historical data. I wouldn't do it that way anymore today, and I wouldn't recommend it to anyone either. Even though the limit for the simple auto invest is lower than for the advanced one, in my opinion, it's just not worth it. With the new data from LANDE and my adjusted auto invest, I now feel much more comfortable with the investment, and I really appreciate that LANDE is being transparent about it. Yes, that really needs to be emphasized here, and they're also no longer financing areas that aren't worthwhile for investors. They have discontinued a lot of things as well. As a startup, they tried out many things. Not everything worked out, but the things that do work, yes, that's where I want to invest significantly more in the coming years because you can make good money with it, and that's what I want to do. LANDE is free of fees, regulated, and offers great flexibility with the secondary market, while the returns can be very strong and also stable. Anyone who is willing to set up a solid auto-invest strategy here will find in LANDE a very exciting and potentially lucrative addition to their portfolio. And as I said, the whole thing is independent of stock markets. And for me, the most attractive aspect is being able to achieve such a nice cash flow on a permanent basis. The link is down below in the video description. I'm now looking forward to exchanging thoughts with you in the comments below. What is your opinion on LANDE? Let me know. And with that, I wish you good returns and see you next time.